Revealer who reveals the hidden things, in your warm-heartedness have mercy on us. God of praise, look at us and don't condemn us. Savior of all believers, hear us and do not condemn us. Consolidator of all good, because we have sinned, condemn us not. Creator of all beings, in your mercy, have mercy on us. Savior of all beautiful beings, listen to our call and condemn us not. Giver of all gifts, give us strength and do not condemn us. Savior of all believers, deliver us from everyone who is evil. Savior of souls, save us from everyone who sins. Eliminate all evils, remove from us sword and wrath. Fastener of all his friends, give us strength so that we do not fall. Shining with rich power, give us strength so that we do not come in shame. Lord of all praise, your praise rest over us. Guardians of the truthful, may your care be preserved on us. An incentive for all the elect, your incentive rest over us. Send all kinds of prayers and praise. Your praise rest upon us. High King of mercy, in your mercy have mercy on us. Doctor who heals his friends, heal us from our sins and do not condemn us. Doctor who heals the souls, heal us and do not condemn us. Mighty of mighty power, break the power of the rebels. More brilliant of great luster, rest apart to shine upon us. Great imperishable light, a part of your light, rest upon us. Who extends his hand to the perfect, extend your hand to us so that we do not fall. Who set you on the paths of truth, let us on your path and do not let us deviate. More powerful and more wise, remove the anger from us. Verily, he who guides the truthful to truthfulness, see us and do not condemn us. Great Lord of all mercy, in your mercy, destroy that which separates us, and death. Remove the anger from your friends. The light separates from darkness. Remove the anger from your friends. Who separates good from evil. Remove the anger from your friends. The truth is separated from error. Remove the anger from your friends. Illuminators of the luminaries, remove the anger from your friends. Who stretches out the sky with his power, remove the anger of your friends. Who seals the earth by his word, remove the anger from your friends. Transmitter of living water, remove the anger from your friends. Fruits, grapes, and trees, remove the anger from your friends. Keeper of souls, save them from everything that is ugly. Sender of the messengers of the Kushta, remove the anger from your friends. Giver of wisdom and praise, remove the anger from your friends. Judge who judges the souls, remove the anger from your friends. Revealer whose eyes are open, get rid of us the sword and anger. Blameless without fail, leave us without guilt and do not condemn us. We are slaves to sins because we have sinned. Damn us not. We are slaves who have sinned, Lord, do not condemn us. Our head went into sin because we have sinned. Verily, do not damn us. Our eye gave an unchaste look because we have sinned. Don't condemn us. Our ear heard evil because we have sinned. Damn us not. Our mouth was chattering lies because we have sinned. Damn us not. Our hand committed theft and did evil. Lord, damn us not. Our Lord conceived evil thoughts. Lord, do not condemn us. Our body was committing adultery because we have sinned. Lord, do not damn us. Our knee bowed to the wicked. Forgive us our sin, O Lord. Do not condemn us. Our foot went barefoot. Lord, do not condemn us. We are slaves to sin. In your mercy, have mercy, Lord. Lord of our souls, we looked at your splendor and received life. We saw your light and believed. We heard your praise, and Kushta lay down in our heart. Kushta lay down in our heart that they accepted your praise and heard the words of praise that you sent us. Lord, we have sinned, and we have sinned. Forgive us our sin and our guilt. Blessed be thy name in the place of light. This is the book of Jordan. Third piece. In the name of the great life, when I came, the messenger of light, the king who I went here from the light, that is when I came, communally enshrined in my hand the light of praise on me. Shine on me and enlighten me, call and proclaim me, the sign on me and the baptism, and I enlighten the dark hearts with my voice and my proclamation. I sent a call out into the world. I sent out a call to the world from the ends of the world. I sent a call out into the world. Let everyone take care of themselves. Anyone who takes care of themselves will be freed from the consuming fire. Hail to the servants of the Kushta, the perfect and the faithful. Heal the perfect who stay away from evil. I am the messenger of light, whom from the Great One was sent to this world. I am the true messenger, where there is no lie, the truthful one, to which there is no lie, there is no lack or lack of him. I am the messenger of light. Everyone who smells his fragrance receives me. Anyone who takes in his speech, his eyes will light. His eyes will fill with light. His mouth is filled with praise. His mouth fills with praise. His heart is filled with wisdom. The adulterers smelled me, so they hastily abandoned their adultery. They hurried from their adultery. They came and surrounded themselves with my smell. They spoke, when we were without knowledge, we committed adultery. Now that we have the knowledge, we no longer commit adultery. I am the true messenger, where there is no lie, the truth in which there is no lie, there is no lack or lack of him. Everyone who smells his fragrance receives life. Everyone who smells of him, his eyes fill with light. The liars smelled him, so they hastily abandoned their lie, and their lies made them hurry, and they came and surrounded themselves with my smell. They spoke, Lord, when we were ignorant, we told a lie. Now that we have the knowledge, we no longer speak it. I am the messenger of life, the truth in which there is no lie, the truth in which there is no lie, there is no lack or lack of him, the tree of praise, from the smell of which everyone receives life. Everyone who smells of him, his eyes filled with light. His eyes fill with light, his mouth fills with praise. The killers smelled him, so they hastily abandoned their murders. They hurried away from their murders. They came and surrounded themselves with my smell. They spoke, Lord, when we were without knowledge, we committed murder. Now that we have the knowledge, we do not murder anymore. The magicians smelled him, so they hurried away from their magic. They hurried away from their magic. They came and surrounded themselves with my smell. They spoke, Lord, when we were without knowledge, we practiced magic. Now that we have the knowledge, we don't do that anymore. We are a vine, the vine of life, a tree where there is no lie, the tree of paradise, from the smell of which everyone receives life. Everyone who hears his speech, his eyes fill with light. His eyes fill with light, his mouth is filled with praise. His mouth fills with praise, his heart fills with truth. Those who beguiled smelled him, and they hurriedly left their beckoning. Her waving hurriedly left her. They came and surrounded themselves with my smell. They spoke, when we were without knowledge, we waved. Now that we have the knowledge, we no longer waver. From the day we saw you, from the day we heard your speech, from the day we saw you, our heart filled with praise. We believed in you. O good one, we saw your light and will not forget you anymore. We will not forget you all our days. Do not let an hour from our heart leave you, for our heart shall not go blind. Those souls are not inhibited. I spoke to you, everyone who repents, whose soul shall never be cut off. The Lord will never condemn him. But the wicked, they, the liars, damn themselves, because you show them, and they don't want to see. They are called to them, and they do not want to hear and believe. The wicked sink by their own will in the great Suf sea. They will be housed in darkness, and the mountain of darkness devours them. By the day, the court days, until the hours of salvation. But he who praises the Lord, will you forgive our sin and guilt. Blessed be you, King of Light, who sent the truth to us, your friends. You were victorious, Mandadahaya, and help all your friends to victory. Life prevails over all works. The fourth piece. In the name of the great life, to you I call, plants that I planted, chosen ones that I have chosen. Don't fight and don't steal. Why do you want to be a beguiler? Why hand over the weak to the strong? Do not be like the prophets of deceit, nor the judges of falsehood. They do not descend from the Jordan, nor have they been strengthened by this Lord who sits in the upper height. Then I will say and show you, you chosen and perfect ones, who have accepted faith in the Lord of greatness. I am taught you about the bachelors and virgins, about uh, the men with no women, and about the women who are not looking for men. Go up to the shore of the sea, see the fish in the sea, two by two. Go to the sea and do not perish, the flying ones, birds in the sea. They fly there in twos and do not perish. Now see, why do you want to perish? Go up to the bank of the great Euphrates, see the trees that are on the bank of the great Euphrates. They drink water and bear fruit and do not perish. But see the dry river in which no water drags. He dries out, and the trees on its shore dry up and die away. Likewise the souls of the bachelors dry up and die, and virgins of men who have no wives, and of women who are not looking for men. When you leave your body, you get your seat in a dark cloud, because you will be out of your own belly bears fruit, and it comes out of their mouth, because they have done what I did not order you. I also call you and declare to you in the world in which you make a wedding for your sons, the men, as well as for your daughters, the wives, and believe in your Lord, the high King of light, for his world comes to an end and passes away. Furthermore, I call to you and declare to you, you chosen and full, those who have accepted the faith of the King of light. Why do you associate with these bachelors and virgins, the men who are not looking for women, and the women who are not looking for men? When if you associate with them, you will fall into Gehenna, for whose roof not 1,000 times 1,000, for the walls of which not 10,000 cedars is enough. And you are not, hold on to it, and if you are not, hold on to them, you will ascend and see his calm face. Furthermore, I call you and show you, you chosen and full. Come those who have accepted faith in the King of light. I teach you about the animals, the flying birds, the fish in the sea, and the animal in the sea. She slaughters, washes, cleans, rinses, and cooks. Pray over them and eat. Then you will not be a test to behave standing. Life is victorious over all works. The Uthras speak to Jozatak Manda Dahaya, your robe shines, and let your form be honored with that of your father, the Lord of greatness. In the name of the great strange life, the sublime which is above all, healing and victory, strength and firmness, and a remission of sins is granted to me, my wife and my children. And let her name be established in the house of life, in the name of the great strange life from the worlds of light, which is above all works. This is the mystery and the first book of the living, first a teaching that has always been, when the fruit was still on the vine, when the ether was still in the ether, when the great manna of glory was there, out of the mighty great manas, whose splendor is extended, whose light is great, came forth before there was no one in the great fruit that is vast and endless, whose splendor is too extensive for speech with the mouth, whose light is great for telling with the lips, that what is in that fruit, since it came forth from 1,000 times 1,000 fruits without end, and then 1,000 times 10,000 shkintas without number. In each individual fruit were 1,000 times 1,000 fruits without end, and 10,000 times 10,000 shkintas without number. They stand there and praise the great manna, the glory that dwells in the great ether of life, who dwells in the Jordan, white water that had come out of the great manna. The fragrance is pleasant, in which all the roots of light is and greatness smell the greatness. The great Jordan arose without end and without number. On him plants stand, they rejoice, they are all full of praise, and they stand there perfectly. From the great Jordan they came, without end and without number. When the fruit was still on the fruit, when the ether was still in the ether, when the great splendor, whose splendor and light were extensive and great, before whom there was no one, from whom the great Jordan of living water, from which life itself rose, then this poured out to the earth of the ethers, on which life settled, and settled in the guise of the great manna from which it had emerged. And this one judged uh, a request to himself. At the first request, the consolidated Uthra, whom life called the second life, also created Uthras without end and without number, and out of that living water arose a Jordan that poured out like the first Jordan to the earth of light, and the second life took a firm place in him. That second life then created Uthras, founded Shkintas, and created a Jordan in which the Uthras feasted and received a seat. 3 Uthras arose that made a request to the second life. They asked to be allowed to create Shkintas for themselves. The 3 Uthras of the second life granted it to them. They consult and create Shkintas. They prayed and spoke to their father. They asked their father, and they said to him, "Are you the one who brought this Jordan of living water, who is so wonderful, and from whose waters the fragrance is so lovely?" And the Uthras who were given a permanent seat in it are so great that they have caused, and it is your Uthras that were firmly established in him. I don't think he offended the second life and said to the 3 Uthras, or to me, your father, life has brought me forth, the Jordan is of life, and you came into being through the power of life. Then they said to him, grant us of your splendor and your light and what is otherwise about you, and we want to break and descend below the streams of water. We want to evoke Shkintas and create a world for you, and let the world be ours and yours. We want to maintain our stock and seat in it, and Uthras in it. They are ours and yours. We want to name the life that we pronounce. This pleased him, and he said, I will give it to you. But when he said this, the Great One did not like it, and life wasn't right therein. There was a prayer for the great manna of the Lord who dwells in the great fruit, and praised him. Then arose the great manna in splendor, light, and glory, created Kabar the Great, whose name is Kabar Ziwa, Nabat Jawar, the son of Jophan Jophaphin, and Sham, the well-preserved manna, the vine, the whole life, the love of the Uthras in glorious splendor, and said to him, you rise above the Uthras and see that the Uthras are doing, and what are you thinking about when you say, we want to create a world, and Shkintas like the mighty Uthras, the sons of light? You, Manda Dahaya, do like that of the Uthras of light, and leave the light and have turned their faces to darkness, to the great Suf sea, to the darkness, to consuming perishable water, to the place that is full of demons who speak with a loud voice, in which the consuming is fire talking. But the Uthra of life keeps silence, and there was nothing about him which lacked or failed. Then the Mana, said to him for the second time, behold, Manda Dahaya, for what purpose the Uthras of light consult, why her heart has fallen into confusion, so that after the age of 35 she has lost her face, and places that are bottomless and shoreless, according to the place where there is no living water that flows, and no light is dwelling there. Again the Uthra of life keeps silence. Then they turned to the Manas for the third time in her majesty, to Manda Dahaya, and spoke, you are the king of the Uthras, the lord of the Kushta, the creator of the treasures. We have appointed you as ruler over all of the worlds of light, as well as over all the Uthras of light who dwell in the Shkintas, even over the lower ones in the worlds of darkness. It is you who determines for that the other world and desired. Descend to the world earlier before the Uthras and go there. Go and do something that is not pleasing to us, that is not right, and you, Manda Dahaya, do not like it, for it is you who keep the Uthras in order, and set up a path, and set up a waystone to be straightened. If we called you, why did we call you? Because you, if you are called, you are worthy, and as if created for this creation. To this Mandadahaya replied and spoke to the great mighty Mana, "If I seek you, whom will I see? When when I am in a hurry, in whom should I have confidence? What should I mean? What should I mean to support the inner that was with you?" The Mana then spoke in majesty and replied to Mandadahaya, "You should not be cut off from us. We rather want to be with you. Everything you say is firmly with us. You are established with us, and should of us not be cut and should not be cut off from us. We are with you because life is full of kindness to you. It created you helpers. It created you gentle and strengthened Uthras, so that they may be helpers to you. Then it created helpers for you who are to be kept there as your sons. Let your sons hear the call of life, and merchants who trade and carry out their trade successfully." He the great then gave him a bright light and increased what he had. He gave him a wide robe, wondrous and endless. He blessed him with rich blessings, with which the mighty have been blessed. They made him the father of the Uthras, who provides his friends with food, and the command of the great fruit of glory. I concluded brotherly fidelity with you, and left and came to the house of light. Life asked me about the Mana whom I was created. Since you came by the kindness of the Great One, how is your nature created? How is it planted? And the life spoke to Mandadahaya and his majesty. "You saw, Mandadahaya, what the Uthras do. What do the Uthras do, and what do they think about this and that? You saw them leaving the house of life and have turned their faces to the place of darkness. They left the society of life and loved the company of darkness. They left the place of splendor and light. We went there and loved the empty space. They left the sweetness. They went and loved the bitterness. They went and loved the bitterness where there is no swagger. They left the Jordan of living water and went to the murky water. To the murky water they went to the blazing flame. They left the living water. They went and loved the consuming fire. They loved the consuming fire and loved the blazing flame. Yes, see, Mandadahaya, that's what the Uthras did. See what the Uthras did and how lacking they were. Let's overturn the world and leave it. Who will be a protector among them? Who will be a protector among them, and who will free you from lack and error, and who will free you from the deficient that you performed by yourself? Who will make them hear the call of the great life enthroned in the house of perfection?" Life talked and spoke to the sprightly, well-equipped Uthra. Was not before the Uthras existed has your creation been accomplished? Before the Uthras existed, he has created you and commissioned you. Created and commissioned by the great, you are equipped, instructed, and sent has authority, and have authority over everything. It instructed you about the Shkintas and the mighty gates of the hidden place. It gave you dominion over the hidden Uthras, those who stand there and praise the mighty life. It gave you dominion over the Jordan of the mighty and over the living, flapping water when the mighty commanded it. They created Uthras for you, created messengers for you, gentle, firm Uthras. When life told me this, I bowed down and praised the mighty. I praised the great life. That life accomplishes a creation for me, that a creation accomplishes life for me and gave me helpers. I shone in my praise while I was standing in a hidden place. I shone in my enlightenment with what life grants me. I shone in my praise about everything in the hidden place. I shone in my enlightenment and set my eyes on the rebels. Before the Uthras were there, I went to the place of darkness. When I stood in the house of life, I watched the outrages, and I saw the gates of darkness and looked at the depth, the whole darkness, and watched the spoilers. And the Lord of the dark dwelling looked at the combats, who are buried in darkness, and watched the gates of the fire, how they burn and blaze. The bad ones are burning and blazing, and in doing so they advise lack and failure. I watched the wife, Hewath. She now speaks in darkness and wickedness. She talks in malice, in sorcery and witchcraft, which she drives. She speaks in the wisdom of trickery, and sits on blendwork. I looked at the gate of darkness, and the vein of the earth, Sinawi as they are. I looked at the black water in them, that rises to a height, boils, and winds. Whoever steps on it dies. Whoever sees it will be scorched. I watched the dragons, those who are thrown into it and squirm. I watched the dragons of any kind. I looked at the vehicles of the sons of darkness, who are not like each other. I watched the evil rebels, how they sit in vehicles. I watch the evil rebels, how they are clothed with the weapon of the wicked, and are clothed with the weapon of the wicked, and think of evil against the place of light. Then I saw her. I turned to my father's house. I stepped in front of life and told him how I had seen her. I told him about the king of darkness, and told him about this and that, how I had seen things. I reported before life. How shall I wander to that place, the place of darkness, and the darkness where there is no ray of light, to the vein of the water of the earth of darkness, that boils, rises to a height, and winds? Whoever steps on it dies, whoever sees it will be scorched. I want to rise to the great and speak. Where did the darkness come from? Where did the darkness come from? Where did their inhabitants come from? Where do your works come from, who are so terrible to behold? Where did your mistake come from, which is so extensive, whose sight is so terrible to behold, which is full of cracks? It is full of cracks. Where did the mighty evil fiends come from, who are sitting in the fire? Where did the black water come from, that so boils and squirms? Whoever steps on it dies, whoever sees it will be scorched. Where did the dragons come from, who are thrown into the water and squirm? Where did your vehicles come from? Where do the bad ones who are sitting in them come from? Where did Hevath the woman come from, of any kind and of any kind? When I spoke like this before life, my Father showed itself in its fullness, without shortage. Life knows, and it keeps silence. Life knows and speaks to me. Come, so that we enlighten you, Manda Dahaya, that thou well-armed, well-equipped Uthra. Before all the worlds came into being, there was this big fruit. When the big fruit was inside the big fruit, the great Light King of Glory was born. From the great Light King of Glory, the great glossary came into being. From the great shining ether there was a living fire. From the living fire the light arose. By the power of the King of Light, and the great fruit was born. The great fruit arose, and in it the Jordan arose. The great Jordan was born. The living water was created. The shiny resplendent water was created, and out of the living water the life arose. Life arose, and then all the Uthras arose. I then spoke before life. Since you, life, were there, how did the darkness come about? How did the darkness arise? How did lack and failure arise? When I spoke so to life, it was full of kindness. Life was full of goodness, and spoke to Manda Dahaya. You sprightly Uthra, you fit well-equipped Uthra, you sprightly Uthra, do not know how the darkness arose. How did the darkness arise? How did lack and failure arise? When life spoke to me like this, I asked for the authorization to say how it was. I spoke to the great life, the life that has always been, when I shouldn't be talking about it. I was not one of the great ones, but since I am one of the great, life itself enlightened me about what it was. What it was like. Life spoke to me in his majesty, spoke to me in his praise. We empower you, sprightly Uthra, sprightly well-equipped Uthra. We empower you, sprightly Uthra, to tell how it was, to teach the hidden Uthras, to teach all the elect how the Uthras of the hidden place came into being. When life spoke to me like this, I repeated with the praise of the mighty, with the joy of the great life. What life has spoken to me, you, Uthra, get up, go to the house of the great, after the place where the mighty sit, the place where the big ones sit, so that they will let you know about this and that. When the big ones spoke to me like that, I went to the house of the mighty, the place where the great ones sit, the place where the good ones live. I stepped in front of them and wanted to tell them as it was at the beginning. When I wanted to talk to you, caress and kiss me, strengthened me in my place, and spoke. We empower you, Kabar Ziwa, you gentle, solid Uthra. We empower you, Kabar Ziwa, Uthra who consolidates his friends. We empower you, sprightly Uthra, you sturdy, solid Uthra. We empower you, sprightly Uthra, to tell how it was, to teach the hidden Uthras. When you go to that place, teach your friends, teach the men of tried righteousness, the true believing men. We want to say to you in your honor that there was no limit to the light. There was no limit to the light, and it did not become known known when it arose. Nothing was when the light was not. Nothing was when the shine was not. Nothing was when the mighty life was not. There was never a limit to the light. Nothing was when the water was not. The water is older than the darkness. Older than the darkness is the water. There is nothing that would be endless. There is no number that we could tell you about, how great she was when the Uthras were not yet there. The Uthras were older than the darkness. Older than the darkness are the Uthras, older than its inhabitants. The goodness is older as the wickedness of the place of darkness. The gentleness is older as the rebellion of the place of darkness. The living fire is older as the consuming fire of the place of darkness. The praise is older as the sorcery and witchcraft that drive the wicked. The third Jordan is older as the consuming water of the place of darkness. The insight is older than this and that. What the wicked of the place of darkness are doing, the voice of the Uthras is older as those of the mighty evils of the place of darkness. We have informed you about the first ones. Now let's tell you about the second ones as they were. The gentle throne is older as the rebellious throne. The hymns and prayers orders are older as the sorcery of the terrible wife Hiwath. The vessel of the ether is far older as the talk that Ruha talks. We have informed you about the second. Now we want to tell you about the third ones as they were. Bakziwa is older as Ruha as she was. The thought of all Uthras is older than the seditious reputation. The territory of the good is older as the Lord of the whole place of darkness. The men of proven justice are older as all the creations of darkness, however they may be. As the Great One thus spoke to me, as the Mighty One, my Father, who created me, so to me when the Great spoke to, I understood in my sense. When I understood it in my mind, I said to him, how did the darkness come about? How did the darkness arise? From what was she formed in her place? Where you, chosen one, are so great? Why doesn't the darkness stop? Why don't you listen to the darkness and the light? The lamp is completely erect. Before I spoke to the Great One spoke to me. O orderly Uthra, orderly, well-ordered Uthra, O orderly Uthra, Uthra who consolidates his friends. The good was in his goodness, neither lacking. The good is by virtue of his goodness. The measures for the good is the power of his goodness. The root is planted in its place. The good blazes in its glory. The water is hidden in his robe. The hidden words, they are hidden and preserved in their books. Water does not mix with bad luck, and darkness is not counted as light. Darkness is not counted as light. The dark apartment is not illuminated. The dark space is not illuminated, and the turbid water does not spring. The darkness expanded, and their inhabitants were formed. The darkness was formed, and when she was educated, she tested her army because of the wickedness she has in mind. It is enclosed in its own container. It is enclosed in its own container, and all their works pass away. The children of darkness pass away, but the children of the mighty life endure. The house of the wicked passes away, and the consuming fire goes out. Your magic work dies and goes out because it didn't exist from before. Their creatures are coming to an end, but the tribes of life endure forever. The living teaching comes up and enlightens the void dwelling. When the Great spoke to me, my heart was lifted up to his support. I lifted it up in power of the Great and spoke and praised the Mighty. Since it was not through you, good, that evil arose in them, why should I go to that place? When I wanted to talk like this, the Great Life spoke to me. One pregnant woman became pregnant in the second. She got down to the world early. Through your power, Uthras will arise. By your splendor, mighty ones will be raised up. The Great One, in his greatness, gave me a lot of light abundantly. It gave me radiance. It gave me plenty of light. It gave me victory, which saves me from everything hateful. It gave me a wide robe, extended and endless. It gave me a wide robe, and made me great to a great extent. It awarded me an olive stick of living water, a staff by which the rebels are crushed. It awarded me a wreath of living fire, wondrous and luminous without equal. It armed me through its armament. It cost and kissed me like mighty ones. It spoke to me. Go forth against the rebels of darkness who think evil against us. They are thinking in malice, and the evil one locked himself in his container. The evil one locked himself in his container, and nothing will come to him from your word. It speaks to me, the good will rise because of this virtue, and look at the place of light. The evil one becomes because of his wickedness, rushing down to the gates of darkness. The calls are called out. Well thought out are the speeches. A call is coming, and teach about all the calls. A speech is coming, and teach about all the talk. A man is coming, and teach about this and that. When the great spoke so to me, I went by his power to the place of darkness, the place where the wicked dwell, according to the space which is full of spoilers, according to the location of the dragons, after the stoves of consuming fire, after the furnaces whose flame rises and reach the middle of the firmament. I went and met the rebellious fiends of darkness. I went and found her, how they all sense in malice. They stand there and reason in malice. They stand there and forge weapons. They stand there and forge weapons and think evil against the good. They are thinking in malice and consult with each other. They consult with each other and speak. Is there another being that wants to make a division in our world? If there is someone stronger than us, so let's rise up and fight with him. We want to see where he came from, where his home and world came from. This house belongs entirely to us. There is no division in our world. Are there beings whose power is greater as those of the fiends? There are none whose power is greater as those of the angels of our place. All senses and searches, and everyone stumbles upon each other. Ruha the buyer, her mind is treacherous, full of lies. Such is the meaning of the liar, Ruha, which is full of magic. She is full of magic, full of witchcraft and false wisdom. Hewath, the woman, Ruha, is sitting there with her hamorthas and pulls out the curls on the head. She sits there and does a lying magic work. They and their hamorthas and practice in false wisdom. How Ruha senses and suckles the magic of lying. She is engaged in evil magic work. What she is well versed in, how she meditates and rummages in magic work. Ruha learned this and that. Who told Ruha? Who taught the mistakes and shortcomings? Who taught the liar? The wife, the mother of the decrepit fiend. Who taught the liar that the strange man has gone here? The liar stood up, you and all your hamorthas. She came and found the mighty fiends as they sat there. She came and found them how they were all dressed in weapons. Everyone was dressed in weapons, and they sat before the king of darkness. The king of darkness with great power raged around in his shkinta and shouted, Is there anyone more powerful than me, to whom all the worlds rejoice? Should there be someone more powerful than me, so he rises to fight with me, whose food is mountains, in whose belly only poison, no blood is found. All the greats and giants, you and your demons and devas, you all rejoice with me. You stand there and rejoice for me, and every day they bow to me. When the king of darkness spoke thus, Ruha staggered down from her throne. Ruha screamed and cried, she and all her hamorthas. Ruha spoke to her son, taught the king of darkness, there is someone bigger than you, and whose power surpasses all your worlds. There is a world more vast than you, yours live in the mighty. There are great dwellings in it, and her figure shines more than all the worlds. When Namrus spoke like this before the sinking mountains, he filled his robe completely on the spot and became equal to the fullness of the world. He became full of evil bitterness and malice. He spat and threw drool, glowing like fire. He consulted in malice and gathered a decrepit army. He gathered a decrepit army and spoke, I want to get up and climb out of the place of darkness. I want to attach my bandage to the earth and uproot it. And with my rope I want to wrap around the whole world. I want to swallow them, and the mighty fall from their thrones. The evil one became full of evil bitterness. He opened his spoiled mouth. He opened his stinking mouth, that his bad smell came out. He opened his stinking mouth, far equal to the fullness of the world. When I saw him, I showed myself to him in the garb of the mighty life. In the garb of the mighty I showed myself to him, which is far and endless. When I appeared to him, I extended glory, extended and outstanding all over the world. I showed him the olive stick of living water, which my father gave me. I showed him the olive stick of living water with which the rebels were crushed. I showed him the wreath of living fire, at the sight of which the demons are frightened. When I appeared to Namrus, she cried, Woe, woe! When I appeared to the giant, all his armies deserted him. When his armies left him, he drew against his multitudes, and moved against the warriors, who take up arms against him, and pulled against all demons. Devas, Hamurthas, and Liliths, he rose up and destroyed the whole world. He embraced her with all his strength, and buried half of his mouth in the earth. He took 12 from the dust and devoured from the place of darkness. He swallowed the black water, devoured all the demons and devas that were in it. He devoured all the Hamurthas and Liliths. He rose up and destroyed the whole world. His eyes glowed blood red, and his heart stood there in sorrow. His heart stood there in sorrow because he now stood empty in the world. Again I appeared to him with the call of the great life. Then the crown fell from his head. When the crown fell from his head, his bile dragged on the earth. The breath that came out of his mouth, the mountains rise and boil, the mountains rise and boil, the poison that came from the mouth of Ur. I appeared to him with the power of the great. There came from his breath something on my robe. When something came from his breath on my robe, extinguished the blazing fire went out. He covered the earth and swallowed it up. Then he covered the earth and swallowed it up. His navel fell on the gate of the vein of darkness. When his navel shook on the vein of darkness, at the darkness formed from him, then the gate of darkness expanded, and he grasped them with his heart. With his heart he grasped the darkness. The container from which he had come, I grabbed his eyes, kinked his heart. I solved and crushed his liver. I put his belly in the intestines and wrapped him in 4 cloths. I put a wrap around his navel and tied a knot around his heart. I put poison in his intestines and bile into his whole body. A tear fell in his eye, glowing like fire. He was tied with a shackle. She was fatter than him, fatter than he was she, and she crushed his bones. A muzzle was placed around his mouth, and he was bridled with an iron bridle. He was gagged on hands and feet. Woe fell into his side, convulsions fell into his head. His eyes went blind and were not bright. The speech became difficult in the mouth of the Deva, and he locked himself in his own container. In his own container he locked himself, and alas, Ak cried over himself, alas, 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 he cried over himself, and his own fire will burn on him. Woe, woe, he cried over himself, because anger had come upon him. Anger had come upon him, and swarms covered him from head to foot. Woe, woe, calls the evil, and all the waters clouded. The waters were clouding. His eyes grew dark and did not shine. His arms and wings he slung against the earth. A shock arose in his heart. With his heel he stomped on the ground. Convulsions fell into his side. The king of darkness locked himself in his own container, and nothing came of my word to him. He consumed himself in sighs and shouted, Merciful One, have mercy on me. When he cried, Merciful One, have mercy on me, he threw everything he had eaten out of his mouth. He threw everything he had eaten out of his mouth, and abominable was his stench. When he cried, Pitiful One, have pity on me, all his worshippers abandoned him. His worshippers left him, and his own burden pressed him. He squeezed his own load, which was great and endless. When he wriggled, he shook his shkinta. When he shook his shkinta, there were guards placed over him. The guardians who were appointed over him were raw giants of the world. Through the raw and giant there was a shock of the heart of Ruha. A shock arose in the heart of Ruha. She cries, moans, and screams. She speaks to the low bank. The ugly, dirty snake whose stench rises. Who did this to you? Who has this? Then he spoke to Namrus, the treasure from which he had emerged. When he wanted to talk to her, the bridle moved in his mouth. The bridle moved in his mouth, and the man howled and screamed. Woe howled, woe screamed. The man, the lord of the whole world. He spoke to Namrus, the mother of this world. The man who did this to me is bigger than all of the world. I looked at the picture of his face, and there was no match for its entire size. I had not grown to his full size, because he is greater than all the world. When he spoke thus to his mother, he wanted to draw her to him. The angels who watched over him called out his vain name. One speaks to the other. Stirs away from his place. When Ruha heard this, she hit her head with her hands. Her hands hit her head, and pulls out the curls on the head. She pulls out the curls on her head and cries, "Woe, woe!" Ruha and the Astartan are standing there and make secret plans. They stand there and make secret plans with the giants and the guardians of Ur. When I saw it, I surrounded him with a tear. I surrounded him with a hoop who is at the heart of heaven. I created and made a wall for him, an iron wall, and surrounded his whole space with it. Over the wall with which I surrounded him, I used guardians who should take care of his camp. I created 24 gates in it, through which his world is guarded. Through her, his world is guarded, and dust rises on him. When I created 24 gates in it, he cried, "Alas, alas, woe! If I'm hungry, what should I eat? If I'm thirsty, what should I drink? What should I lie down on, and who should keep me company?" I replied to this and spoke to Ur, the vain king of darkness. The good man rises above his virtue and looks at the place of light. The evil one becomes, because of his wickedness, cut off in the place of darkness. You shall camp at the gates of darkness, the container from which you emerged. She should keep you company, the container you locked yourself in. If you are hungry, eat of your multitudes. Of everything that has joined you, let your drink be that of that black water where you lived. When I eat and don't get full, who will support my interior in its place? When I drink and do not satiate myself, who will quench my thirst? When the evil one spoke thus, I laughed my flaunting in my robe. I defied and laughed at him, the snake without hands and feet. You wanted to devour the whole world, but then came to the word of life that has the power to rule and command. When I spoke to him like this, he wailed and wept over himself. He whined and cried over himself and spoke, "Is there anyone who is taller than you, who has dominion over all the worlds? If there is someone bigger than you, so be lenient with me. Don't condemn me for sinning. Be lenient with me, our Lord. We have sinned and missed. Forgive us our sin and guilt. Be lenient towards me, and we will all submit to you. Me the good, me for the good to you, life that has power," I spoke to him. Until life wants it, and Abathur is planted here, until Abathur was created and the sons of salvation will be created, the miraculous living fire is said to be donated, and Gabriel the messenger shall be created. He is to be created and commissioned, and they will send him here. He is to be created and commissioned, and he will create the world. Let him come and seal the compaction and create the earth, and create the earth artfully. He is supposed to create the earth in an artful way and clog the well of turbid water from the dust that rises from Sinavis, from a tributary pipe for yourself. It spreads over the living fire. It fills up with living resplendent water, whose fragrance is pleasant, and from which wonderful things are brought. From the pouring of that water it will be for your drink when you are thirsty. Of the food that the consuming fire eats, let it fall on you. Of what remains and falls off shall be your food. Of your demons, Devas, Murthas, and Liliths shall be your food. When the firmament is stretched out, the embers will descend on you. Groaned loudly and spoke to me, "How long should I stand alone and bear the burden of the world?" When spoke thus, Ruha his mother trembled and trembled. Ruha was frightened and trembled and cried, "Alas, alas!" Ruha moaned loudly like a petulant about the giant who was humiliated. She called to him, "Who will be like you? Step up and lead the world. Who will be the master of your demons? Be the ruler of you Hermurthas, a giant. Who will wear your jewelry? Who will wear your jewelry? And then the women, the body of women." When the wicked spoke thus, I answered them about everything. How the big one wants it, so it came on the spot. How the great one wants it, my Father who created me speaks it to me. The calls are called out, well thought out are the speeches, but what Ruha is inventing, there will be empty calls. When the 7 arise from which the error comes, the names of those calls, they are written and spoke about. When the 12 shouts arise, from which comes lack and failure, according to the plan of the liar, they will be bound in sorrow. There are 5 calls who are looked at with horror. The worlds behold them and fear them. They appear in a container of blazing fire. They walk on wheels of anger. They appear in fire color. They let me know about the first things and taught me about this and that. They teach me about all the calls, how they came out of their place. A call is coming, and teach about all the calls. A speech is coming, and teach about all the talk. A beloved son is coming, which was formed from the womb of splendor. He was formed from the bosom of the gloss, and his image is well preserved in its place. He comes with the enlightenment of time, with the orders given by his Father. He comes in the garb of living fire. He goes into your world. He shows reverence to the great life. Let enlightenment come out of his mind. He lets enlightenment come out of his mind. He brings compaction and throws it into the water. It throws compaction into the water and creates a dam for the worlds. He brings the living fire and throws it into the murky water. He appeases the pits and dries out the cloudy water. He creates a world for himself and builds its structure equal to the mighty. He brings splendor for the house of life and enlightens his Shkinta. He creates a king for the world and throws a soul into his body. A soul in his body he throws, and they eat physical food. Through the power of living fire, they speak the consuming fire. The consuming fire speaks, and everything, this and that, arises from this. When the leaves, flowers, and herbs emerge, as well as all the fruits, grapes, and trees who flaunt in the world the scent of the living water and the living fire, your evil scent will become fragrant. Of the food that the devouring fire eats, your food will come to you. 3 Uthras will come and guard the soul. They will come, the call of life will be heard, and light up the decrepit house. 2 Uthras are coming. At the top of the water go here, and they will bring water and create a Jordan in the world. They will create a Jordan in the world and spread splendor over him. They will plant and plant. You will be full of faith, wisdom, and insight, and make a noble call. They will make you hear a noble call and spread the shining over the house. The gush that pours out of the water which falls to the earth, Tibble. The casting of the earth, Tibble. When you are thirsty, serve you as water. The house of the earth, Tibble, serve you as a guardian of your sons who come forth from you. Let them be your guardians. Let them be guardians over you, who take care of you. They should take care of you on the shackle which resembles the fullness of the world. You should pay attention to the high foot. To the high foot block which is heavier than all the worlds. When the evil one heard this, his heart became full of anger. His heart became full of anger, and he shook the anvil of the earth. The anvil of the earth he shook. He shook the tires. He shook the shackles, which is like the fullness of the world. I arose in the power of life and addressed a request to the great life. I then called out and created a wall around him, an iron, and put a hoop around him. I put a hoop around him whose strength no one has grown. No one has grown greater in strength to get him out of his place. With my heel I stomped on the ground and shook his heart from its support. I put a wrap around his heart and tied a knot around his body. I tied 7 knots around him that the voice of darkness came out of him. I tied the big knot and made his whole speech a noose. While 12 wraps I wrapped him, and his 12 evil thoughts remained with him. I tied him up with a loud voice, that your whole mistake may give way, and I tied him up with a shackle, that the 7 have stayed with him. I threw the club at him and hit him, and split a slit in the copt for him. I made him moan like the women, and made him cry like a child. I made feces his food, drink to his drink. I put out the fire and the embers, the consuming pernicious fire. The greed I took from him and clothed him with anger. I paved the path for the good and created a gateway for the world. I created a gate for the world and set up a throne in him. I set up a throne for the good and set up a lamp for him. I made a lamp for him perfect beyond measure. Awaiting for the sons of salvation, I straightened up in places where they lived in abundance without shortage. I set up thrones for them, and I gave them vestments. The Jordan of the great life I created, and set up keepers for him. and placed 2 Uthras on him, overabundant without shortage. I set up a throne for the chief of the brilliant beings, and set up a lamp in front of it. I set up a lamp perfect beyond measure, with enlightenment and praise. With what life has made me here, with enlightenment and praise, I got up and went to the house of the mighty life. In the joy I felt, I spoke to the mighty one, the great, and rejoiced and showed myself firmly. It pleased me beyond measure. Life showed itself to me recognizably and increased my splendor beyond the former measure. It spoke to me, Kushta, keep you safe, good, and receive in salvation the word in which you have expressed yourself. Life turned in its joy to the Uthras and spoke, praise the power of the man who healed the water by fire. Praise the power of the man where the fire did not die, the fire did not sin against him. The Uthra shone in its splendor the Uthra shone, and created a path for the perfect. For the perfect he created a path, and granted the perfect salvation. He grants salvation to the perfect, and remembers her name in the house of the mighty. The Uthra was cheerful and happy when life was revealed itself to him. It tasted and kissed the Uthra, and handed him Kushta like one of the mighty ones. He did and had success, and called it the Uthra. In everything you do, you should succeed. When you create and plant Uthras, so your Uthras want to go to that place, to the great Father for whom life is recognizable. I received Kushta from him and went to the house of the mighty, the place where the good people live, the place where the good ones live. When I arrived at the house of the good, I bowed down to the mighty life. As soon as I wanted to talk to the Great One himself spoke to me. As soon as I wanted to tell him, he thanked me, the Great One. The Great One thanked me and told me about everything. The Great called me His Majesty, a Great One beyond measure. The Great called me He did and succeeded, an Uthra who consolidates his friends. He did and had success, and called me the Great. In everything you do, you should succeed. Thou shalt be the father of the Uthras, who seals his friends with food. You are the chosen one of the Uthras, and you do right in all your works, and you make all your works right. Because you are, he did and had success, Mandadahaya, you fit well-equipped Uthra. Direct the line of living water upwards and lead them into that world. Call the 3 Uthras who should protect the treasury of life. Let them guard the treasury of life which is fetched from here. Simple-minded Uthras, get him and bring him to that world. They put him in feces and dressed him in flesh color. They put him in feces and clothed him with a worthless garment. They clothed him with a worthless garment and created lack and failure in him. They created deficiency and failure in him, and slyness arises in him. There is a slackness in them, and this and that will happen to you. Then the second one straightened up. His Uthras rose and gave him advice. His Uthras rose up and gave him advice by speaking. Grant us that we may create a world and build Shkintas for you, which should be called yours. Then the second gave them his splendor and his light, and in what his life grants him otherwise, he gave them his glory and ordered them to create a world. The sons of the second sent out, went and descended to the place of darkness. They called out Tahil Uthra. They called him out and fixed him in his place. They called forth the sons of salvation, and they raised them up on their thrones. They called forth and created Shkintas and created Uthras in them. They went to the streams of water. They looked and saw the place of darkness. Bakzi was shown in his soul. He saw himself as a mighty one, as a formidable one. He and left the name that his father had created. He spoke, I am the father of the Uthras. I am the father of the Uthras who created the Uthra Shkintas. He was thinking about the muddy water, and he said, I want to create a world. He did not consult with himself and did not know the turbid water. He did not know the murky water. He did not know the consuming fire on which there was no shining. The father of the Uthras did not take advice, and he did not grant them any helpers. He called Tahil Uthra to taste and kiss him like the tremendous. He gave him names which are hidden and kept in their place. He gave him the name Gabriel the messenger, called him and instructed him and spoke to him. Go up and and get down to the place where there are no Shkintas and no worlds. Create and make a world for yourself, like the sons of salvation you have seen. Create and direct a world there. Create a world for yourself and form Uthras in it. The father of the Uthras in his haughtiness told him nothing of the opposition. He did not equip him or instruct him. Tahil Uthra set out, went there, and descended below the Shkintas to the place where there is no more world. He stepped into the dirty dirt, stepped into the murky water. He began to speak. Then the living fire changed. Then the living fire changed. He grieved in his heart and spoke. Since I am a son of the great, why did the living fire change? When Tahil Uthra spoke thus, Ruha felt strengthened. Ruha felt strengthened and her soul took pride. She said, his shine has changed. There was a lack of his brilliance. She got up, destroyed her belongings, and dressed in a wide robe. She changed her mind into haughtiness and stood as she was not. She spoke to the warrior, the foolish, the senseless, and the unintelligent. She spoke to him. Look how the shine of the strange man has diminished, how its luster has lacking and misshapen. Up, sleep with your mother, so that you will be freed from the shackle with which you are tied, which is stronger than all the world. When the evil one heard this, he shook himself with his bones. He lay down to rest, and she received 7 characters from one act. After 7 days she gave birth, and gave birth to the contemptible. She gave birth to the planets from which the 7 figures emanated. When she saw them, her heart dropped from the support. She spoke. I said, but I wasn't told. What I wanted did not become. No one is like the other. When Ruha spoke thus, her sons rebelled. They rebelled and denied their father. There is nothing that is endless. Tahil washed his hands in the murky water and spoke. Let there be an earth, as they were in the house of the mighty ward. Then he dipped his hands. A compaction formed who lay thrown down and moved back and forth as it were there would be no compaction. When no earth was created and it was compacted, his heart was at odds. When his heart fell into discord in turn, Ruha felt strengthened. She spoke. I want to open up, destroy my belongings, and to the kings of the world. She set out anew, destroyed her belongings, and clothed herself with her robe. She got up, destroyed her belongings, went to the fiend, and spoke to him. On, great fiend, on. Behold, the whole world is thine. I heard that the house was abandoned, and all the knots are untied. When he heard this, his heart felt twice as strong. When his heart was strengthened, she said to him, I am your sister. When you lie with me, your strength will double. When he slept with her, received them from a plot of 12 fiends. She received from him 12 fiends. Not a single one of them was good. After 12 days, Ruha got the contractions. She gave birth and gave birth to 12 figures, none of which resembled the others. They did not resemble each other. Each rode on the lap of the other. When she saw them, her heart dropped from the support. Her heart fell from the support, and she howled and cried over herself. She spoke. I told myself I would carry and give birth, and they would be like the Lord of the world. I ran, my Lord, but did not get there. Torment, I charged myself. When Namrud spoke thus, all 12 are angry, all the angry ones, and they denied their father. There is nothing that is endless. Tahil stood there and thought. Tahil stood and thought and spoke. I want to leave the world. When Ruha heard this, her heart was on the support again. She spoke. The stranger is not an adversary to me. The stranger has no power over the world. She got up, destroyed her belongings, and put on her robe. She got up, destroyed her belongings, and went to their homeland in the place of darkness. She went to the low warrior who was without hands and feet. Get up, my father, see, I am your daughter. Kiss and kiss me and lie with me. Lie with me and fill your eyes with the world. Fill your eyes with the world, and behold, the whole world belongs to you. The stranger who came into your world, she left again in a hurry, and he went up to his place. When you lie with me, your eyes will remain as they are.